She met Abe every day like clockwork. Fortunately, Jane's intense dislike for reading was only a temporary feeling. She was getting the hang of it. As a result, her nervousness began to disappear. One afternoon, Abe surprised her. To her amazement, he gave her his favorite book. One Giant Leap. In 1961, Alan Shepard became America's first astronaut. He blasted off into space in a rocket and then turned around and came back to Earth. His short trip was a big success. Shepard's flight proved that people could go into space. After Shepard, more astronauts went into space. Some orbited the Earth. Some walked on the dusty, bumpy surface of the moon. They took pictures and collected moon rocks. Astronauts wanted to answer some important questions. Did the sun's warmth heat the moon? Could the moon support life someday? Nature is full of great ideas. Many inventors and scientists just step outside and look around for inspiration and ideas. They often imitate or copy what they see outdoors. They use nature to inspire their inventions. One amazing invention was inspired by bats. It's a special cane that helps blind people navigate and get around. The Long Road to Oregon. In the spring of 1843, more than 800 pioneers began a journey from Independence, Missouri, to Oregon City, Oregon. They had 120 wagons and 5,000 cattle. This was one of the first wagon trains to travel west on the Oregon Trail. Land of promise. Life was very hard in Missouri in the 1800s. Bad weather caused crops to die. Businesses closed. As a result, many people could not find jobs. Americans wanted a more enjoyable life. They wanted to live in a place where the soil was richer and the weather was more agreeable and pleasant. The United States government was giving away free land to pioneers. So, thousands of people traveled west to Oregon, a territory in the northwest part of the country. Once, long ago, Papa and I were walking for miles on a long and winding country road. Finally, we approached a large farmhouse surrounded by fields of healthy vegetables. "Papa, I'm so hungry," I said. Papa patted my head and winked. I smiled and nodded back. I admired my Papa. I knew he would find a way to get us a warm meal. We knocked on the door and a well-dressed man and his wife answered. "Hello," said Papa. "My son, Eric, is hungry. Could you please spare a morsel of food?" The man shook his head. "We have lots of food, but we cannot afford to give any of it away," he said. "Well, I could cook my flavorful nail soup if you would donate a small cup of hot water," said Papa. The woman looked at her husband. "Soup from a nail?" she said. "That's impossible." But the man's curiosity overwhelmed him, so he brought a small cup of boiling water. "I'm sorry," I apologized, "but that's impossible. Crowds make me nervous and unsure. Besides, I don't like animals, remember?" "That's nonsense," said Carla. "There's nothing to be concerned about because you'll be great." Just then, Pero leaped up, slobbered all over me, and almost knocked me down. "Yuck! Down, Pero! Stay!" I shouted. Pero sat as still as a statue. "Wow, you're good at that," said Carla. "Now let's get started because we have a lot to do." By Saturday morning, I had practiced announcing each pet's act 100 times. My stomach was doing flip-flops by the time the audience arrived. The size of the crowd made me feel even more anxious. When the show began, I gulped and announced the first pet. It was a parakeet named Butter, whose talent was walking back and forth on a wire. When Butter finished, everyone clapped and cheered. So far, everything was perfect, and I was beginning to feel calmer and more relaxed. I realized that being an announcer wasn't so bad after all. Day to day. Wolves live in packs of 4 to 7. They do almost everything together. They hunt, travel, and choose safe places to set up dens for shelter. Foxes, on the other hand, like to live alone. They usually sleep in the open or find an empty rabbit hole to call home. Both wolves and foxes communicate by barking and growling. The gray wolf also howls to alert or warn other wolves when there is danger nearby. The red fox signals in a different way. It waves its tail in the air to caution other foxes. The gray wolf and red fox are members of the same family and have many things in common. But they really are two very different animals. Orville and Wilbur Wright stood on a cold, windy beach in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The brothers traveled a long way from their home in Dayton, Ohio, to test their newest flying machine. Flying had been their dream since their father had given them a toy helicopter. The Wright brothers owned a bicycle shop in Dayton. In addition to selling, building, and repairing bicycles, they built flying machines. They flew the first one in 1899. However, the winds weren't strong enough to keep the machine in motion, so they looked for a place where the winds were stronger. As a result, they chose Kitty Hawk. It was not only windy there, but the sandy beaches made for soft landings. Captain's Log, May 12, 1868. We set sail from a port in Spain. Sun high, no sign of rain. The sea was satin, so blue, so blue. Our ship was a bird, we flew, we flew. Just past noon, how very weird, came a sound that we most feared. Thunder rumbled a giant drum. Thunder rumbled, rum-tum-tum. Rain was pouring, pouring. The wind was a monster roaring, roaring. My crew, extremely terrified, froze at their posts, pale and wide-eyed. Juanita lived in a small, humble cottage with her mama and her pet goat, Pepe. One day, Mama said, "There has been no rain and our garden has dried up. Juanita, you must go to town and sell your goat. Use the money you get as payment to buy some food." "I don't want to sell Pepe," cried Juanita. She petted the goat lovingly, but she was an obedient girl and would not disobey her mother. Reluctantly, she took Pepe to town. On her way, she met an old man who patted Pepe kindly. "He is for sale," said Juanita, with tears in her eyes. The man replied, "I have no money, but I have some special frijoles. If you plant these beans, you will never go hungry again. We can barter, and I will trade you these beans for your goat." Marco gazed at the basketball hoop and threw the ball up. It whizzed through the air. "Score!" he shouted as the ball fell through with a swish. "You won this time, but I'll beat you next time, Marco," said Kim as the two friends made their way home. I wish we could play at home, too, instead of only at school. It's not fair. The basketball hoop in their neighborhood park had been ruined when a tree fell and crushed it. My dad says the parks department doesn't have enough money to buy a new hoop yet, grumbled Marco in frustration. I feel so discouraged, said Kim. I guess there's nothing we can do. Marco and Kim walked past the city's recycling center. They waved at the manager, Mr. Morse. His job was to separate the plastic, paper, and metal items people brought to him. He was transferring cardboard from an overflowing bin into large, empty containers. Good dog. When a hiker is lost, a rescue dog sniffs the air and the ground to find her. A dog's sense of smell is much stronger than a person's. Rescue dogs can even smell someone trapped under 15 feet of snow. When a dog finds someone, it barks to alert its partner. The rescue worker trusts the dog, so the team works quickly to save a life. At the end of every rescue, the dog gets praise and treats for doing a great job. Sometimes rescue teams go to schools and teach children about safety and disaster prevention. They show children how to stay safe and what to do during emergencies. This job is fun for rescue dogs. They get lots of attention for just doing what they do best, helping people. Rescue dogs really are heroes. Dolores goes to school. Dolores saw how hard life was for farm workers in California. She wanted everyone to be treated fairly. This attitude continued as she attended college and studied to become a teacher. Many of the students that Dolores taught were the children of farm workers. These students were often tired and hungry. They came to school barefoot because they had no shoes. Dolores knew she needed to help them. As a result, she went to her school's principal and proposed some good ideas. She tried to get free lunches and milk for the children. She tried to get them new clothes and shoes. Trying to help the children was a daring thing for Dolores to do. The other teachers did not agree with her ideas. Dolores risked a lot, but her beliefs did not waver. She decided to do something about the unfairness she saw. She wanted to find a better way to help farm workers and their families. Go sunshine! Renewable energy is where it's at, and solar power is at the top of our list. Here are the top reasons why solar energy is so hot. Solar power is cheaper than fossil fuels. It is renewable. It doesn't cause pollution and it's good for our environment. Power from the sun is always available. Solar power is natural. Solar energy can do just about everything that fossil fuels do. Everyone should use solar power. It's good news for the planet. Characters: narrator, Arachne, a weaver; Diana, Arachne's friend; Athena, a Greek goddess; messenger. Scene 1. Athens, Greece, a long time ago, Arachne's home. Narrator: long ago, Arachne and her friend Diana sat weaving. Diana: oh, Arachne, that cloth is so beautiful. Arachne admires her cloth. I know, Arachne, I know. Many people want to possess my cloth, but few can afford it. Only those with great wealth can buy it. Diana: yes, it's true that people value your cloth. It is one of their most valued possessions. Your weavings are a real treasure. Some say that you learned your weaving skill or talent from the goddess Athena. Arachne: it was not necessary for me to learn from a goddess. I was born with my talent. I am a much better weaver than Athena, and I'm sure I could beat her in a weaving competition. Diana is worried, stops weaving, and looks at Arachne. Diana, shh! I hope Athena isn't listening or you're in big trouble. Arachne, nonsense! There is no reason to be alarmed or worried. Athena is much too busy to come down from Mount Olympus to compete with me. Rosa and Eddie knew they shouldn't argue with Mama, but they were tired of being indoors. "Oh, please, take us outside. We can all go to the store together," said Eddie. "Okay," said Mama with a sigh, "but we have to stick together and stay close to each other." Mama helped Rosa and Eddie bundle up in their uncomfortable but warm wool clothes. When they got outside, they were astonished and amazed to find a wall of snow several feet high. Luckily, their neighbor, Mr. Colon, arrived with 2 metal shovels. "Who wants to help dig out?" he asked. Mama, Rosa, and Eddie took turns shoveling snow. It was hard work, but no one fussed or complained. When they were done, they looked across the street. Maria's market was still snowed in. Mrs. Sanchez, the owner, was trying to clear the snow with a small broom. "Mr. Colon, may we borrow your shovels, por favor?" asked Rosa. "I think we need to give Mrs. Sanchez a hand." When James A. Lovell Jr. was a boy, he loved to build rockets and launch them into the sky. But his dreams went a lot farther than his rockets. Like many boys who grew up in the 1930s, Lovell dreamed of being a pilot. As he watched his rockets soar, he knew someday he would too. High-flying dreams. Lovell was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1928. He worked hard in school and planned to go to a special college to study astronomy and rockets. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough money to attend. Lovell had to figure out another way to reach his goal. Lovell was motivated to find a way to fly rockets, so he went to college near his home for 2 years and then signed up for flight training at the United States Naval Academy. After 4 years at the academy, Lovell joined the United States Navy and became a professional naval test pilot. His job was to fly planes before anyone else was allowed to fly them. There are more than 725 species or kinds of butterflies fluttering around the United States and Canada. These fascinating creatures taste leaves with their feet and only see the colors red, yellow, and green. The monarch butterfly and the western pygmy blue butterfly share these same traits, but they are also different in many ways. Size and color. The western pygmy blue butterfly is the smallest butterfly in the world. It is just about a ½ inch across from wingtip to wingtip. That's smaller than a dime. Monarch butterflies are much bigger. They measure about 4 inches across. Size is not the only way monarchs are different from pygmy blues. Monarch butterflies are a bright orange color with black